Vicar was one of the greatest Disney Comics creators ever. His comics, or rather not fully his, and those for which he created drawings, were usually very good. Of course, there were also weaker stories, but in general, his stories are more positive than negative. It's not without reason that Vicar is considered one of the best Disney creators. He was hailed by many fans as the successor to Barks himself. He became famous primarily for creating 12-page stories about Donald, sometimes also his nephews. But there were also stories in which Scrooge appears, and these are also good, not to say better than those with Donald. In the stories about the unlucky duck, we are dealing with predictable patterns, which of course does not diminish them, but they are still relatively worse than, for example, the way the cookie crumbles. A comic that I will present to you today, in the form of a short Saturday review. I invite you to watch. It's a story that has been published in 20 countries so far. It was first released on the June 13, 2003. I have this comic in two language versions, Polish and Croatian. However, I will focus on the Polish edition. Let's go with review. The Way the Cookie Crumbles is about Scrooge who goes to the Chinese restaurant with his nephews. He says he'll pay the bill himself. At the same time, fortune cookies are brought. Donald's fortunes partially comes true, while Scrooge does not believe in this, as he calls it nonsense. His prediction is sell at the first opportunity. The stockbroker calls him and offers to sell some stock. Scrooge refuses. Unfortunately, it turns out that the stocks had to be sold. Scared, Scrooge returns to the Chinese restaurant for a cookie. Unfortunately, it turns out that you can only get cookies if you eat a whole dinner of several dishes. Scrooge starts eating 27 Chinese dinners a day, which reflects badly on his weight. As Donald put it, he's getting fat as a pumpkin. Then the cookies start to run out. It turns out that there is not a single fortune cookies left in the whole city. Scrooge is devastated. He believes that now his financial empire will be in ruins. He just got addicted to divination, so he decides to go to the Tibet, where these cookies are made. As Scrooge himself put it, I can see with my mind's eye an ancient temple, somewhere among the snow-capped peaks, monks who put their invaluable advice into freshly baked cookies. It soon turns out, however, that these pieces of advice are in fact the works of complete accident. In addition, written by a young student who writes what comes to his mind. Scrooge regains his confidence, but when he calls the stockbroker and tells him to sell some shares, the student says that selling them is a serious mistake. Scrooge believes him, but immediately begins to regret it because the company whose shares he bought went bankrupt. He lost a fortune. The whole comics ends with a standard frame, Scrooge chasing a student. Is it a good story? It sure has a lot of funny gags, like Scrooge's expectations versus reality crashing brutally. Also, Scrooge is not as smart here as it might seem. This is not Bark's Scrooge, self-confident, intelligent, not making bad decisions. Scrooge in the Way the Cookie Crumbles is quite naive. It didn't happen often, even with Vicar himself. Scrooge in the Chilean stories is mostly just a sly businessman, and here is the other way around. In addition, he can't make any decisions without cookies, which also shows that even the richest duck in the world has his weaknesses. So, lots of gags, a different Scrooge than usual. Not alone makes the comic a good read. I definitely recommend. It's a really good piece of story. And well, this was the first Saturday review. I hope the next ones will come every week. It's all in this material. See you, take care, and bye.